Hello, everyone. It's Anthony again. In my autistic lens, how I see the world through my autism. Today, I'm going to talk about masking and the terrible toll that it takes on those of us with autism. I've had it all my life, as you could probably guess. When I was a kid, I was that kid who was always singing, always making noise, making drum beats, getting in trouble for making too much noise. I would always argue, at least that's their perception of it. But the problem was that when I saw things a particular way, and it's the only thing that made sense to me, I couldn't let it go because in my mind, that was wrong. So everybody, even through high school life, I got this thing, you always have to be right. People saying, you always got to be right. And what I've learned when I found out about autism is that it's not about being right, it's about being correct. So, something, as I was saying, or trying to say before I got distracted with a further thought of it, is that there's a difference between being right and being correct. I need things to be correct, or my brain won't stop. It just keeps going, and I can't let it go. Kind of like a dog with a bone. Until we get this right, correct, I can't let it go. But it was often perceived as I always had to have the last word, or I had to be right about everything. But nothing could be further from the truth. I just never thought that way. I was just like, it's got to be correct, or I'm going to be upset. And and I often did have meltdowns, temper tantrums, so they called it back then. But now I've learned that it's just my mind shutting down. My brain just shut down. I couldn't think anymore. So I would just, everything happened all at once in my head, and I would just blow up. And it became so taxing and so expensive. At some point in my high school life, I started learning to hide so that people didn't think I was weird or too much. Of course, I talk to some of my friends now, and they're like, oh no, we didn't see you that way. Yes, you did. You did, because I remember being told by everybody, you're weird, you talk too much, and you always have to be right. Almost everybody I know that was really close to me said that to me at some point or another. And I'm not mad at anybody for that. I get it. I mean, as much as I can get it from my side of the spectrum, so to speak. But it became very taxing to me. And what I learned along the way as I got into adulthood is that all of these things that I do that are weird, the way that I move my hands, the stimming behavior. I have throat stems. I do that, and it annoys people. So I would hide them. And then the thing is that when you stop stimming, you can probably guess, if you're not autistic, you can guess by just the fact that if the word stim, you probably instinctively know what that means. If you stop stimming, then there's no recovery going on. And so we end up hitting a wall, and we have meltdowns. And from my understanding, neurotypical people, normal people, also get to that point. It just takes a whole lot more input before you get there. But because autistic people, and this is another thing, is that we see more, we hear more, and we smell more, and we taste more. So we're getting bombarded. So get an idea of what it would be like to be autistic. Go to a place where you're not allowed to wear headphones, and then there's like 4 or 5 people talking to you at once, a baby crying as loud as they can, like not terribly far away, somebody playing a bell, like all within 10 feet of you. That's what it's like to be autistic all day long. When I walk into Safeway or Fred Meyer, I hear what's going on 10 aisles away. I hear the clicking of the shoes. I hear the lights humming. I hear the motors in the coolers or the refrigeration. I hear them humming. So I have to block out a lot of data. I have to block it out as much as I can. And I can't be in a grocery store that long, or I get overwhelmed and I start doing all kinds of like weird movements and stuff, and I could have a breakdown. I could have some kind of meltdown, and so I avoid those at all costs. So those of you who maybe knew me back then probably noticed that I disappeared a lot. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that I had autism. I didn't know that what I was doing was stimming behavior. I didn't know any of that stuff. But I guess what I instinctively picked up on was that if I disappear, I feel better. Anytime I went to church, I'd end up in the bathroom or in the foyer. I never sat through an entire church service. Like, I can't remember the last time I sat through an entire church service. Even when I was the pastor of a church, the way I had it set up, it wasn't fully dependent on me, and I would disappear sometimes. I would go into the dojo. We had a dojo in our church, but I would just disappear. I would go into my office, I'd go into the dojo, or I'd go, somewhere other than where all the noise was happening. I didn't find out until I was, just a couple years ago, that I'm autistic. And suddenly everything started making sense. And honestly, I've been in what they call autistic overwhelm for probably about 10 years. I became more elusive, and I didn't want to go out very much. Kind of took on some agoraphobic behaviors. I didn't want to see anybody, talk to anybody on the phone. I just shut down. I had a small group of like my partner and her son and maybe one other person that were in my life, and I didn't want to see, talk to, or be around anybody else. It was very exhausting. But now that I know what's going on, I can budget my time and stuff, and I'm starting to come back, and I'm starting to see, starting to be willing to do things, kind of like what I'm doing right now. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I haven't been able to because something stopped me because I was overwhelmed. But now I'm feeling better up here, so I can do the things that I want to do. So anyway, have a good day.